Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Marr, the noisy earrings my ventilator. And welcome to Womp Rat Wednesday on Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today, we continue our look at the planets of the Star Wars galaxy, as seen in the films. And now we come to the second new planet, I should say, seen in The Last Jedi. And that is Cantonica. Now, you may not recall Cantonica because the name was never spoken in the film. But this planet is home to the casino city of Canto Bight, where Finn and Rose travel to find the Master Codebreaker so they can disable the First Order's tracking of the Resistance flagship. But before we get there, I made a major error yesterday. I forgot to wish a happy birthday yesterday to the man who started it all, George Lucas himself. George Lucas turned 75 years old yesterday. George Walton Lucas Jr. was born in Modesto, California on May 14th, 1944. So happy birthday, George. It is so incredible that here we are, 42 years later, having podcasts about a little low-budget space movie that nobody thought would succeed. We are all here because of the creative vision of George Lucas. So happy birthday, George. We hope you had a good one. Now, a little bit of news. So in this last couple of days, we've gotten some major news about the future of Star Wars. As I mentioned, there will be 3 new Star Wars movies, which will be released in 2022, 2024, and 2026. Now, there was some question about who's in charge of these films, because we've heard that Rian Johnson is working on a trilogy, and we also heard that Benioff and Weiss of Game of Thrones fame are working on a trilogy. Well, now we know. The Star Wars film that is slated for release in December of 2022 will be from Benioff and Weiss. Now, this comes from the bigwig of Disney, Bob Iger. And we know that this film will be theirs. Now, these two, as far as I'm aware, are not directors. They are producers, they are writers. As far as I know, I may be wrong on that. So, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Now, at Star Wars Celebration, Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, suggested that Benioff and Weiss are working with Rian Johnson. We have yet to hear any further confirmation on that fact. But we know that for right now, the film of 2022, will be brought to us by Benioff and Weiss. Also, a third live-action Star Wars streaming show has been confirmed. We know that we've got The Mandalorian coming to Disney Plus, which season 1 of that show is finished, by the way. And the second show will be about Cassian Andor, which is Diego Luna's character from Rogue One. The third streaming show, we do not know what it is, but it has been announced. But it's a mystery. And it's going to hit Disney Plus before 2022. Some people are predicting it might be an Obi-Wan Kenobi series. But we'll find out. So I will keep you posted as the news comes along. So let's talk about the planet Cantonica. Cantonica, which we never hear the name on screen, is a desert planet that actually has a couple of oceans. We know this because Canto Bight is on a bay, on a sea. According to some of the other canon material, the Sea of Cantonica, which is where Canto Bight's located, or rather Canto Bight is located on the shore of the Sea of Cantonica, is an artificial ocean. We also know from other canon material that Cantonica is within the corporate sector. Now, this is very interesting because the corporate sector was first introduced in Star Wars Legends 40 years ago in one of the earliest Star Wars Legends novels, Han Solo at Star's End in 1979. But this is the first time, I believe, in The Last Jedi that the corporate sector was brought into canon. So, but there's not really much to say about the planet because we don't see much of it in the movie. So let us talk about the main attraction, the Casino City of Canto Bight. Canto Bight is kind of like a Star Wars version of, Casino Royale. It's got a very James Bond feel. Very much a kind of that glitz and glamour, gambling halls and serving drinks and slot machines, all kind of crazy stuff. It also, of course, has the racetrack. That is also another popular destination for the guests of Canto Bight. And we know, of course, as we learn, that many of the people who go there who are rich make money off of war profiteering. arms dealerships, as we learned in the ship that DJ and BB-8 steal. That many of the people on Canto Bight sell weapons to both sides of the war. Now, Rose points out that a lot of them sell weapons to the First Order. But as we learned on that little yacht, they also sell weapons to the Resistance. And probably the Republic as well. Or did until the Republic was more or less destroyed. So we see this crazy world, and I have to admit there is an appeal to it, so I can understand why Finn finds it so glamorous. You know, how many of us sit down and watch a James Bond film and kind of wish we were in those, you know, playing pool, not pool, I'm thinking of Star Trek, playing poker, you know, one of these high-class tables, or you know, rolling the dice and doing those cool things. It's sort of a glamorous idea. In fact, I have to admit, I was just watching Casino Royale recently, and then had to go play the World Series of Poker online game, and just felt compelled to. So I can understand why Finn really is kind of sucked in at first. Until Rose points out there's a lot going on beneath the surface. You know, we get to see the horse races, the farriers racing, which is really cool. But then Rose points out those little kids who are, you know, have to keep the stables, or look after the stables, but are treated pretty low. So there's a lot going on there. So, would I like to live there? That's the question. Well, yes, I would. I would like to live in Canto Bight, get to hang out at the casinos and the bars, and go to the Frontier racetrack, but it comes at a price. Now, if those negative things were not happening, then I would probably feel even more inclined to want to live there. So I'd like to live there, but with a caveat that I wouldn't want to live there with all the trouble going on in Canto Bight. Another reason I might not want to live there under corporate sector jurisdiction is because it seems that the police are a little, apparently they don't like, I guess they don't even like it when someone parks in the wrong place, which is the reason why Finn and Rose and BB-8 were thrown out of the casino, and why Rose and Finn were arrested. Is apparently because they parked their shuttle on the beach. I guess that's enough to get you jail time. So, I might not want to live there if the law enforcement is so sensitive to crime, or sensitive to rule breaking. But considering that Canto Bight is ruled by a bunch of snooty rich people, I guess they pull their strings. Oddly enough, the alien that complains about them parking and then points them out in the casino is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, by the way. Stow and Low is his name. So it's a cool, glamorous place, but it comes at a price. But if it were not for that price, I would certainly love to be there. So there's a lot that goes on here in terms of the story, in terms of its importance to the story. Now, a lot of people are not particularly keen on the trip to Canto Bight. I don't think it's that interesting, but I'm okay with it. I'm cool with it. I think ultimately for me is Finn learns to take a stand because of the events on Canto Bight. Here, of course, is when Finn and Rose are arrested and thrown in jail by Meet DJ, who helps them escape and then helps them with their plan to shut down the tracker on Snoke's ship. But ultimately, when they're caught, he brokers a deal with the First Order, and also ends up giving away that the Resistance is trying to escape on the transports. So unfortunately, DJ, while not necessarily a bad guy, ends up doing something pretty bad. Now, I think that as far as the story, it would have made more sense if the character of DJ and the Master Codebreaker were the same character. Because the Master Codebreaker guy is almost completely pointless as a character. But all in all, I think it's an interesting world. I'd probably like to live there because of the climate. And hang out on those yachts that are, that one yacht that flies out of the waterfall. But it comes at a price, and so I may not feel entirely comfortable living there, knowing what kind of nonsense is going on behind the scenes or under the surface of the rather polished veneer. So those are my thoughts on the planet Cantonica and its capital city, Canto Bight. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Brennan Marr, that noise you hear is my ventilator, and thank you so much for tuning in to One Pratt Wednesday on Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.